Okay, folks, so I am the redneck trader, as you can tell by my accent. I am from the South, and I trade a pretty simple model for ES, and I use NQ for divergence and correlation. And I was just going to share it with you because it just seems to be a lot simpler thing to do than what a lot of these guys are showing you on YouTube. And I've learned a lot from some of those guys, so I'm not saying anything about them, but it it doesn't need to be that complicated, and you don't have to have the daily bias correct to make a good trade. So basically, I'm using a three candle model that I learned from a guy on X who I trust, and you're looking for three hourly candles. The second candle needs to take the high or the low and close inside the range of the first candle, and then you're going to trade the third candle. So basically, I do that to get bias on direction just for that hourly candle, the next hourly candle, and then I switch over to the 2 minute chart, and these are the trades I took today. So this was the first hour. I'm sorry. 7 was the first hour, 8 was the second hour, 9 o'clock's the third hour, and I only take trades near the 30-minute mark of the hour or the 50-minute mark of the hour. I'm just trying to catch that small macro move that happens at that time. And I'm only looking for 2.5 points on two contracts, and I've got my trailing stop set to, as soon as it hits 2.5 points, it jumps to 2, and then every time it moves 2 ticks, my trail moves 2 ticks with it for the rest of the time. If it goes all the way to full target, which could be $700,000, or it comes back and stops me out, I'm always in profit. Once it hits 2.5, I'm not going to lose money. I've kicked myself in the butt too many times doing that, so I set that up to try to help me with a little bit of a weakness I have there of trying to let something run and it coming back on me. So really the two biggest models that I use, if you want to call them models, is I look for a sweep of a intermediate high. Basically, that's just a high that happens inside of a fair value gap. If you don't know what a fair value gap is, just Google it. It'll come up, some ICT language. So once I get that sweep, and it can sweep on both, or it can just sweep on one. If it sweeps on one, that's my highest probability trade. So once I get the sweep, if I get a big candle like this, and I'm not just getting a quick candle close below this candle here, then I'll enter it to break, which I did here. Entered it to break. There's my 2.5. It came back and stopped me out at my what is that? That's 647.75 and 50.75. So it gave me my basically my 200, I guess, two something. So that's the one model I use, and I like for it to be under this purple line is the 21 EMA. The other is just VWAP. I like for my trade, if I'm going short, to be under that 21 EMA. If I'm going long over it, it just seems to work out, and that's something from Patrick Whelan that I kind of learned watching him. So that was my first trade, and I let that ride. And the next hourly trade that I could make was here. And I know you're looking at ES and going, man, that didn't finish inside the range. No, but NQ did. So if one or the other, they don't have to both do it. NQ finished basically inside the range. So I was looking at the 10 to 11 hour to make a trade. And what do? We wait until 10:30 and look for a sweep or a divergence with a sweep, right? So NQ swept, ES did not. and I'm really close to that 50 mark on the hourly, which is another macro that's going to move. So as soon as this candle closed after the divergence, I entered and just stayed in it until the 50 macro started, and it just kind of meandered around there for a little bit, but eventually gave me my target, which was really this high right here. So we got my trailing stopped me out right there, and that's basically it. It's pretty easy model. You know, you don't have to worry a whole lot about bias. You don't have to look at all these fair value gaps and breaker blocks and order blocks and all kind of stuff that ICT teaches, which I'm not saying anything bad about that stuff. It's just really complicated, and if you're a simple-minded person like me, it's too complicated. I spent 3 years trying to figure it out and never could, but I do use things that he has taught, some of the language that he's taught. You know, I use fair value gaps, and I use sometimes I'll use a breaker block from the 2022 model, but for the most part, I'm looking for that 3 candle model, which I learned from Rich the Bull on X. You can go find him. I think it's all caps. And I'm looking for that divergence. Really, I really want to see a divergence. I feel a lot more confident in my trade if I get that divergence around that 30 mark or getting close to that 50 mark on the hour. But like I said, if I don't get it, but I get a sweep and I'm inside that 30 or 50 when I get that sweep, and they're both sweeping, and we can kind of see we've got our direction from our 3 candle model where that hourly is probably going, I'm probably going to take that trade if it looks good. So that's basically it. It's just a 3 candle model, and I use the sweep or a divergence, and there's one other that I use, but I don't use it often because I'm not that confident in it. So yeah, stick around. If you want to subscribe, go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to be working towards this is an eval, so I'm going to be working towards this eval, getting it to a regular with Apex and try to get paid off of it. So yeah, if you like the model, just back test it. You know, don't trust me, just back test it and look. I've done, I don't know, probably a year's worth of back testing on it, and it seems to work out pretty well. So I want to try it on this eval, see if we can get it passed and maybe get into a pay and get paid out possibly. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments and I'll try to answer them. Thanks.